What I basically want to do right now is just start off with this one that most people don't know about. This is called Housing for Heroes, and it's called a TFA. TFA is Temporary Financial Assistance, which the veteran, if they qualify, is entitled to $2,200 once in a lifetime shot. So this is one thing that you have to know and understand. We're only going to get it once in a lifetime, $2,200. And this is if they're in need of housing, if they're behind on their rent, their electrical, their power bills, and especially if they've got kids. If they've got kids, when you do a TFA, you put an emergency on it. Because when there's kids involved, we want that to get done as fast as possible. One of the things is, though, that when you do this, there's a form that you have to fill out, which I didn't bring with me because it's too long. You got one?
Yep.
Okay.
Got a couple of them.
Thank you, John.
If you want to pass a couple out.
Just to kind of give you an idea, it's quite lengthy. But the thing is, the stipulation is that the veteran and the family really have to qualify in order to get this money. Because one thing, there's been too many scams out there, too many people trying to get this money, and they don't deserve it belong to them. The other thing is that you as a service officer or anybody that does a TFA, you're going to have to verify everything. So in other words, it says Social Security number that's got over here on the back, where if they went and looked for other assistance through Social Security, through VA disability pension, Medicare, food stamps, unemployment, if they wouldn't try to get any of these other assistance before they came over here to get this one. You'll also see here they'll ask for the landlord's information, his address, his phone number. They're going to check and verify what the rent is, because anybody can come and tell you, well, I pay $1,000 a month of rent, and they're only paying $500. Well, you're going to have to call that landlord and double check what that rent is. You can't just go by word. So, saying that, you're also going to, the veteran and the family is going to have to prove everything to you. So in other words, they're behind on their electric bill. They got to give you a copy of that electric bill or show you that electric bill. Same thing with the water, the rent, everything else. If they got an eviction notice, if they're getting kicked out right away, we need to find out all that. So, in order for them to get anything too, he's got to have this DD-214 naturally, okay? Now, DD-214s, it's got to be an honorable discharge or other than dishonorable. So, in other words, if it's a general, he could probably still go ahead and use it, okay? He's going to have birth certificates of all the kids involved and their ages if they're going to school. His marriage license. And then, like I said, the bills of foreclosure, the eviction notice, disconnect of any services that might be going on with that. So, as a service officer, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have him fill out this application, and then you're going to go back and double check everything that he says or statements that he gave to you, saying that he's behind on the rent and stuff like that. You're going to verify everything. Once you do that, you're going to send it up to the main office, and then they're going to verify it again also. Anytime anything's missing or not right in place or anything, they're going to come back to you and they're going to ask you, hey, look, this isn't right, this is wrong, whatever the case might be, and you're going to have to go back and get a hold of that veteran and his family and question him again about it. Verify it again also. So the best thing to do is when you're filling this form out, before you even send it in, if you're not sure on anything, get a hold of the veteran and the family and verify everything before you even send the form in. Because you don't want to make a mistake and then that just holds everything up. Because you'll take that form, you'll send it in, it's going to come back, they're going to say, hey, well, we need this, we need that, we don't have this documentation or whatever. If you do that, that's going to hold the process up. So most time people don't know about this, so when they come to see you and you tell them about the TFA because they're looking for help, they don't have all this information with them to begin with. So they're going to have to go back, get all this information, get a copy of the DD-214 and all the information that you need. Once you get all that information, you make copies of everything. You don't have to keep the originals, but make copies of everything, and then you go back through and verify, like I said, the landlord, the amount and all that stuff.
You don't need it.
No. And make sure everything is on the up and up. Make sure everything is good. Okay? So basically that's what a TFA is. But like I said, you have to explain to them that it's a once-in-a-lifetime deal. Okay? It's about $2,200 now. But they have to qualify for everything. You have to confirm everything before you send it in. Then you send it in. They'll double check everything again, and then if they say yes, they're going to make the decision up there. Then they'll go ahead and send him a check and send the checks to the proper places wherever the money needs to go. The veteran in the family is not going to get cash on hand. So that's, you can tell them that right up front, because they'll pay the rent, they'll pay the lights, they'll pay the gas, they'll pay whatever he needs, but he's not getting no cash. Same thing too is a lot of guys will come in and say, well, hey, I need gas money, I need insurance money, I need this money, I need cell money, you're not going to get it, okay? They'll pay for necessities for you and the family to stay in your rented home or house or whatever it might be. But as far as getting cash, it's not going to happen. Now, one of the ways you can get a few dollars cash, and what we do at our post is you join the American Legion, or if you belong to the Legion already and you belong to our post, and you're on good standings for 6 months minimum, and you get into a bind or something, say, just for instance, maybe your gas is going to go off or something like that, you need $50 or something, the post will go ahead and do that. But also at the same time, there's also 2 other applications, one for the electric and one for gas company too, that is similar to the TFA, but it's not as lengthy. So if you just run out of gas or electric or something like that, you come in, you ask us about that, we fill that form out too and send it in. But like I said, at the same time, the post is going to send the money to the electric company or the gas company. The veteran's not getting cash. Sure.
So when you're doing this other assistance, do they have to have either gone to or like something for all of these, or
as many as possible? Yeah. I mean, the government wants them to go find other assistance someplace else, if possible, to see if they can get any other kind of assistance instead of just relying on that. And a lot of it has to do with too is that you'll find people, and they're scammers or whatever you want to call them, that they'll come back about every 6 months or 9 months or something like that, say, hey, oh, my daughter's this, whatever, I need this, I need that, and they go around to the different legions and the VFW clubs and try to hit each one, try to pick up a couple bucks here and there. And a lot of them, that's what they do, you know, and the guys that don't know or don't know anything like that, I guess from what I understand is that some of the legions will hand them 20, 50 bucks or whatever, say, hey, the guy's in emergencies, that, blah, 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 this, whatever. But then we also come to find out too, a lot of them, they don't ask for the DD-214 at the time. The guy will just walk in and say, hey, I'm a vet, I'm stuck, my truck's broke down or whatever, so I need a couple of dollars. Okay, here's 20, 40, 50 bucks, you know. But then they come to find out, saying the posts will stick together and let the other posts know when such and such comes by. So now we keep a list, we track them. So now if the same guy comes back 9 months later or whatever and he tries to get something else out of you, you go back in that list and you look down at it and say, hey, you're not a vet, whatever, we're not helping you. Okay? So that's, you know, part of the bad part of it. Oh, go ahead.
This is a Legion thing?
Yeah. But you don't have to be a member of the Legion, and you don't have to belong to the Legion in order to get that. That's strictly for vets, but it's offered through the American Legion.
Before it gets sent out, where it says conduct a complete investigation and ensure that all forms, this is you who are taking care of the veterans?
Yeah. You got to go through, like I said, and verify everything that he tells you or he gives you, or the landlord. He's going to give you the name, address of the landlord, how much rent he pays, and what he's behind and all that stuff. You're going to have to call that landlord and tell him, hey, look, I'm over here, I'm doing a TFA on this guy, and I need to verify, does he live there? Is he paying that much rent? Is he behind that much? Has he got an eviction notice? Whatever the case might be.
VSO, that's not what the Legion can do this. Let's say any of this secretary for the Legion, she can do this and send it to headquarters,
yeah,
without being a member of the Legion.
Right.
So anybody can go find it.
Basically, though, what the Legion wants is, because the Legion's the one that came up with the TFA.
Yeah.
So they want a service officer or somebody from the Legion to do this. Okay. And like I said, HOHP, how they got part of that, I'm not sure, but I think it has to do with Jim Sylvester, who's also commander of the American Legion over there too. So now he got it where they can do it. So it's an assistance to help the veterans. but they'd rather have somebody from the Legion or the HOHP do the form, okay? They don't want just anybody doing that form.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, so you, like say, for instance, as a service officer, if you decide to do this, you're gonna have to go through, verify everything that they tell you, and make sure everything's on the up and up, and then, once you send it in, they're gonna double check it again.
Yes, you would. Like, I wouldn't be able to say, like, Andy, here, go over to Bernie Joseph and go do that, you handle that, but he can't send this. I mean, what they would like for is a member to sign off on it.
Yeah.
Sign off on it.
Yeah, because you're gonna sign off on it, so you're gonna sign off on it, they're gonna ask you what your title is. You're gonna say service officer, Daryl, and sign it, okay? So that, and your contact information, because once you send that in, they're gonna come back, and then if they got any questions, they're gonna ask you, well, how come we don't have this amount here, or whatever the case might be, he might be missing, he didn't fill in, or something like that. Especially when it comes, like I said, especially the birth certificates and stuff for kids. They want that birth certificate. They don't care if you got 10 kids, but they want the birth certificates, okay?
This?
No, that's through HOHP. They do the same thing the TFA that American Legion does.
Okay.
So you
same kind of format?
Right, same thing. So the HOHP does that, and the American Legion does that. That's why I just gave you that flyer, because so you have that other information. Okay? Okay. The next one, and this is what I did. I found out later on down the road it was easier for me to do it this way. So where it says information needed, this is the basic information that you're going to need to get from the veterans and stuff. So I just basically typed this up myself and just give it to them so they know. Now you need all the marriage license, you need the divorce papers, you need the spouse's full name, her birthday, her social security number. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not the vet. Why do I have to give my social security number? Because Uncle Sam wants it. If you're married to a veteran, he just wants your name, your full name, your birthday, and your social security number, period. If you don't have it, nothing's going to happen with that form. So that's why they're asking for a death certificate if it applies. Kids 18 to 23, if they're going to school or still going to college, you can claim them as a dependent. Your bank account information, another thing that people get upset with. Well, you're going to give my bank account information? No. Yes, because what happens is, once you file a claim and it goes in, and if you get awarded anything, it's going to go direct deposit to your account. You're not going to get a check, you're not going to get a credit card, you're not getting a debit card, nothing. It's going to go direct to your account. Yes.
So what do you do if you have like a homeless veteran or someone who doesn't have a bank account? Like, what do you typically do in that situation?
Tell you the truth, I never came across it, but if down the road, I think there'll probably be some way to establish an account for him. Maybe the Legion will give him $25 to open an account, you know, something like that, just so he can get his award. Like I said, I've never really came across that, and most veterans that are homeless, that don't have any money or any bank accounts or anything like that, it's going to be even a lengthier process for them because they don't have anything. Unfortunately, yeah, I hate to say that, but it is, because all the paperwork and stuff that they need, you know, especially if they're living out there in the middle of nowhere, you know, they're not going to have all this paperwork with them. So then they're going to have to start the process of going through and getting the paperwork and stuff, which I'm going to get to another point here and let you know about that also. The other thing is on here is private doctor's information. Private doctor's information is just as important if the guy's already in the VA system and they got a lot of his medical records. And the reason for that is, say for instance, we'll just say Vietnam vet, he got out of Vietnam in 1966 or whatever. He went on with his life, he was seeing private doctors for 20, 30 years before he even got in the VA system. Okay? So now all of a sudden he's had all these medical problems. He had cancer, loss of hearing, who knows, leukemia, whatever. So this private doctor has got all his information. So now here it is 30 years later, he finally gets into the VA system. So now the VA system has got all his medical for the next 10 or 20 years. So now all of a sudden he decides to file a claim, compensation. Now, one of the the reasons why you have to provide your private doctor's information is, say for instance, when he first got out, he was in an artillery unit, and he's deaf, okay? So if he went and got a hearing test back then, or even if he didn't, you know, he might have been at 10%, 20%, or whatever it might be of a loss. Now, here it is 30, 40 years later, he's 50 or 60%. But now you have to prove it, okay? So what you do is, you try to go back to that private doctor and get that information that says you were at a certain percentage when you got out here. And now you go to the new one, and you got a percentage here, which showing it's higher than it was before. Now you show the difference. That's proving your hearing loss, okay? What happens is on hearing loss too, is a lot of guys that are in the VA system, they'll come and see me, and they go to the VA to go get a hearing test. The VA is there, and it says, in 15, 20 minutes, boom, get out of here, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? So they try to shuffle you out like cattle. What I do is, I turn around and I send them to Sam's Club to go get another hearing test. You don't have to be a member, and it's completely free. And you're going to be there a good hour, hour and a half. You're going to come back and say, hey, you're dead at the door now. Now, if I would just send the VA one when I send his claim in, and just sent the VA, that was it, the guy's going to look at his hearing loss. Nothing wrong with it. They pass it. But now I send the VA in, and I send Sam's Club in. The guy turns the page, he goes, Sam's Club, he goes, uh-oh, the light's got to come on now. Now they got to do something. Because now it's showing here, there's nothing wrong with it. Now it's showing over here, he's 50% deaf or whatever it might be. So they have to do something with that. If you don't give them any proof, no evidence or anything, nothing's going to happen. It's just like you can file a compensation claim. You can claim everything and anything that you want to. But without proof, you're just wasting your time.
Can you explain the whole rating? How the VA rates the veteran?
Yes and no. And the reason I say no is because their rating system is really complicated, and it would take, I don't know, a long time to understand it. But the rating system basically goes from 10% to 100%. Okay? So in other words, if they rate you at 10%, right now it's about $133 a month. If they rate you at 100%, if you're single, it's about $2,900 a month, and if you're married, it's about $3,200 a month. Then it's in everything in between. 20% is about 200 something, 30% is about 333, 40% is 400 something, 50% is about 500 something. But part of the rating part I can't really explain to you is, and it was taught to me, it was, say for instance, and you'll see this a lot on the paperwork. The guy, he's going to come in and he'll say, hey Ken, I'm getting 220%. I said, no, you're not. Yes, I am. Look, add it up. I said, I understand that, but that's the VA system. The VA system will say, hey, you got 20% here, you got 30 here, you got 60 here, you got 50 here, and you got another 80 here. Well, sure, I got 300%. But that's not the way it works. It goes from 10 to 100. Once you hit 100, basically you're done. That's it. Okay? There is other circumstances, aid in attendance and housebound, where you can get another $300 or $400 a month, provided you prove all that also too on top of the 100%. Okay, kind of give you an idea how the VA rates. Say for instance, okay, I'm getting 10% for hearing, I'm getting 20% for ischemic heart, and maybe 30% for leukemia, okay? So that's basically 60%. Now all of a sudden I have a massive heart attack or something like that. What the VA does, they go 100% of your heart. Now they say, well, how much damage was there? 30%. So now you're getting 30% of your heart, okay? So now you add that on top of the 60, you think you got 90. You don't, okay? And that's how they break it up on body parts and stuff like that too. If you're missing just a hand, if you're missing the whole limb, if you're missing a leg, a foot, whatever, then they have certain percentages for each part of your body. So basically that's how I can explain it to you, and that's not completely right on everything, because like I said, I don't know it, and it's a little complicated. I haven't had that training yet, but I'm trying to look for that also.
Ken,
yeah,
you can look that up. If you go to the VA's website, they actually have a link to the United States Code that governs that. And you can look it up on that, and it tells you how they rate different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
But
John.
I think, like, one of the things, like, because you're correct, though, because like the percentage-wise, it's only up to 100%, and even though you're adding those percentages together, they have their own formula for saying, okay, well, we like aggregate this or something like that. So
yeah, they have a formulation table.
Yeah, they got that's what I said. Without actually looking at it or anything like that, it's hard to explain. But that's why a lot of people get confused too, because like I said, they'll get their award letter and they'll come back in and say, hey, look, I got 20% here or whatever, I got 50% here and I got 80% here. Well, you're already over 100. So no, you're not. You're never going to get more than 100%. I don't care what you do, you're going to get 100% period, like I said, unless it's aid attendance, housebound, or something like that. Then you can get another $300 or $400 a month on top of that, which you still have to qualify for that. What happens a lot of times too, believe it or not, you'll get guys come in here and they're at 100% and they want to push the envelope. They go, no, I want that extra $300 or $400 a month. Okay, here's what's going to happen. Depending on what's wrong with you and what you're getting compensated for, and you're trying to push the envelope and you don't really have the proof to get it, the VA will turn around and start looking through your file, and they're going to start nitpicking every little thing they can think of, and they're going to knock you down. So basically what I tell everybody is, unless you're completely sure, unless you've got 100% proof that you want to go out to $300 or $400, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Because the VA, like I said, they'll go back in there and they're going to start nitpicking at every little thing and try to knock you down. I'll give you a for instance. This guy had cancer. He was at 100%. All of a sudden the cancer went into remission and they knocked him back down to 50%. So the guy comes back in, hey, they knocked me down 50%. I ain't got cancer no more, the guy told me. I said, you don't have cancer anymore, huh? I said, okay. So we wrote back to the guy that did this, and we told him, please explain to us and the world how you cured cancer. Because you never cured cancer. It goes into remission. So we had to fight for a long time, but we got him back up to his 100%. So, like I said, the VA will do anything to try and knock you down. So, if you happen to run into a vet and he's got 100% like that, unless he can actually come up with the proof and he wants to push that $300 or $400 extra bucks, and he can qualify, then go ahead and do it. But if he can't and he's just pushing the envelope just to get that extra money, tell him don't do it. Now, you cannot refuse the vet, okay? As a service officer, you cannot refuse him. If he says he wants to push that $300 or $400 or whatever and take a chance, then go ahead and do it. But that's his call, okay? So if he happens to get knocked down after that or whatever, that's on him. It's not on you. Because you told him straight up front, do not push the envelope, okay? So if the veteran does it, that's on him. It's not up to you. Sure.
But just to clarify, that's at 100% though. But if they're going from like 10 to 50, like that's totally okay, and that's like very advisable to encourage them to try to go further, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. A lot of times, and this doesn't happen all the time, but it's happened to me in the last year or so. For whatever reason, I submitted the claim for this guy. He was at 10% for minor hearing loss. So I redid his claim for him, submitted it back in. And the guy came back to me and said, hey Ken, I went from 10 to 70. Okay? So 9 times out of 10, it's the paperwork. Okay? You don't fill out the forms the right way. You miss boxes. You don't check the right box. You don't send in the evidence. You don't send in the doctor's medical evidence. All that stuff will get that claim either tossed to the side or not even go higher than what he is already at. For the simple fact, like I said, the government is going to make you prove everything. It's just like they got guys come in here and say, well, I'm a vet. You got a DD-214? What's a DD-214? So yeah, the government's going to make you prove everything. Another thing too is, and I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but another thing too is like when you fill out these forms, you're going to find a 686 in there, and I'm going to get to it. That's about dependents. So if you're talking wives now, because the guys who's already up here 50, 60 years old, more likely they don't have kids at home. But some guys have come in and said, hey, I've been married 6, 7 times, I can't get that information. Wrong. Every county recorder's office in every state that you got married and divorced has got that information. You're going to have to send for it. It's going to cost you a couple of dollars to get it, but you're going to have to get it. Okay? So the guy turned around and told me, well, can you put me down to single? I said, said, sure I can. I said, but I'm going to tell you what. As soon as I do that, the first thing Uncle Sam is going to check is Social Security numbers. And when they pop up all them other 5 or 6 marriages that you didn't claim, you're done. Period. Your claim, there's no more claims, there's no more nothing, you're done in the water. You lied to Uncle Sam, that's it, it's over with. So you just shot yourself in the foot, big time. Okay? Now, what I also found out too is Uncle Sam wants the divorce papers and the marriage certificates for all your marriages. What we found out too is now we can probably get by not having them all, providing you can come up with the dates and the places where you got married and divorced. Okay? So in other words, say you've got the last 3, if you were married 5 times for instance, and you got those marriage license and certificate and divorce papers, and the last 2 you don't have. But you know the dates and the places where you got married and divorced, you can just write those in there, and they say that it's good enough. Now there's also, here I'm jumping the gun again, but there's also a remarks page on there too with that. And what I tell people is that do not lie to Uncle Sam. If you do not know when you got married and divorced before, I'll put a note in there stating, hey, I don't remember the time that I got married, it's approximate to who, to approximate where, to approximate date, divorce, or something like that. This way you're not hiding it, okay? You're admitting to it, you just don't remember the exact dates and times and places. So now when you submit it, he goes, well, he checks the first 3, he goes, yeah, everything adds up. He goes, looks in the box, he goes, oh, just married 2 more times. But he's not hiding it. He's putting approximate dates, places, and everything, so they know. If you leave it blank, if you say, no, you wasn't married anymore, forget it, you're dead in the water. Okay? This other page that I put on here is the one that I said get recorded. And I think this is a good idea, and I just do this to help people out. You don't have to do it, it's entirely up to you. But your DD-214 is the very first one you're going to see on top. That's gold. Without the DD-214, there's no honors, there's no flag, there's no burial in the VA cemetery, nothing. So that DD-214 is gold. Okay? Then I put the marriage certificate, death certificate, birth certificate, baptism, high school, insurance, wills, power of attorney, stuff like that. And I did this just to help for people, you know, that don't have a lot of this information, or if they do get it and they take it down to the county recorder's office, they'll record it for you for a couple of dollars. It's there forever now. So if you happen to lose it, fire, theft, burglary, who knows what, you can always go down to the county recorder's office, go pay a couple of dollars, and bingo, they bring you a copy right now. If you don't, and say you need that information, it might take you another 6 months to get that stuff. Well, all the time that you're waiting for that 6 months to get all this paperwork that I'm going to need, that's time that you could have had all your paperwork done, and 6 months that you could have got paid up to. So, the longer it takes you to bring the service officer all the information that he needs, the longer it's going to take you to get your claim in. Okay, let's get back to the DD-214. Here's the one, the 180 that you fill out for the DD-214. You'll see the very first one, I've already filled it out for you. Okay, and then there's one on the back side that's a blank. But this is basically how you fill out to get a DD-214. What most people do, though, is when they go for a DD-214, they just check the DD-214 and that's it. They don't check nothing else. So if you notice on mine, I check there for the medical records, then I check the other box. It says all documents in official military personnel file, and then I add medals and ribbons. So I send for everything. There's no sense in going back and forth, send for the DD-214, and later on send for the medical records, later on send for something. Just do it all at one time. Saves you a lot of trouble that way. Now you can go on a VA website and send for the DD-214 in an emergency. Say you need it right now. Okay, you can go on the website and go in there and file for a DD-214, and you're going to get it pretty quick. But if you don't need, if it's not an emergency, you don't need it right away or anything like that, I suggest that you do this form here and fill it out just the way that I've got it. The only other thing that you're going to have to remember is if he's deceased or not. Then down here where it says requester's name, I'm the deceased veteran next of kin. Well, then you check that box. Okay? or if off to the right it says I'm the veteran's legal guardian, then you check that box. But other than that, basically that's how you fill this out, and then you make sure he signs it and dates it, and then you send it off.
One thing to point out on that, case I'm doing right now, guy was in the Navy, got out in '95. To get medical records, it goes to one address. To get his personnel, it goes to another address. So page 2 of that has the addresses.
Yeah, I should have brought that up too. Thanks, John. Another thing too, and I'll get to that later in the other segment, is a lot of times too that you'll want honor guard for the Navy or the Air Force too. There's a different website or a different place that you got to get that information also. But I'll get to that. Okay, now you got a vet, he's been in the system 10, 20 years, or 5 years, or whatever it is, and you need to get a hold of his medical records. Okay, he can go down, and I do this for Tucson because Casa Grande in Tucson is the main hospital for Casa Grande. And here is what you would do. You send for your medical records on a disc, because if you send for your medical records, they're going to send them to you in paperback. Well, you don't want to walk around with 5,000 pages of paper. Right? So, this is what you do. You send it off to the fax to the VA in Tucson. Jesus is the guy's name. ROI, release of information. Request medical records on a disc. There's a phone number. There's a fax number. You include your name, your last 4, your social, and your contact number. And you fax that off to them. And then within about a week or 2, you'll get all your medical records on a disc.
This is only for people who've been in the VA system.
Yeah, you already have to be in the VA system. If you're not in the system, then it's not going to do you any good. Or if you just happen to get in the VA system in the last couple of weeks or something, well, it's not even worth it.
Yeah, this isn't requesting medical records from conservative country.
No, this is just at the VA hospital. And then, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so if you send this to the Tucson VA, would they be able to get the Phoenix VA's records as well?
No, you're going to have to get the different information from the Phoenix VA. I just did this one because this is the one that I know, and this is one I work with all the time. Yes, sir.
Point out also, if you're on the My Healthy Vet, if your veteran's on that, they can download.
The thing is, with My Healthy Vet, which is good if you don't have too many to download, because if you've got a lot to download, that's a lot of ink and a lot of paperwork to get.
Oh, I didn't say print it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can go through it and get what you need out of it.
Oh, yeah, you can go, you can do that.
Because then you'll have it on your computer at home.
There are certain things in there that you know that you're going to need. Yeah, you can go through there and look at what you need and just print out what you need. Yeah, that's another good one, too.
Thank you.
Also, too, I think that you get a lot of that, too, off the e-benefits, too. They're adding My Healthy Vet and a lot of different stuff in there, too. But My Healthy Vet, since you brought it up, might as well talk about it.
Sorry, Ken.
No, My Healthy Vet is good, but My Healthy Vet, you have to get a password and a username. And it's got 3 levels. Primary is the top one, and that's the one that you want to get. Because when you get primary, then you can go in there, you can check all your labs, you can check your doctor's appointments, you can refill your prescriptions, you can do all of that stuff in there. You can add your own medication list in there that you're taking over the counter and stuff. If you want to track your weight and stuff like that, you can add all that in there. If you're exercising, on a program or whatever, you can add that in there also. Another thing too, what they came up with, and which I think is a good idea, you can, there's a form, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, maybe John knows, that you can share your private medical and your VA medical together. So in other words, they both know what the other one's doing, because if not, say for instance you're going to a private doctor for cancer, whatever, and the VA doesn't know nothing about it, and you go see him, well, if they both know what's going on, I think it's a little better that way than find out, well, one's going to treat you for this part of it, and the other one's going to treat you for this part of it, and it has got nothing to do with either one. So that's another idea, too, as far as medical goes.
And with My Healthy Vet, there's a thing on there called secure messaging. They have to get back to you within 48 hours. Whereas before you call and you're like waiting and waiting, you send them a secure message, they have to get back to them 48 hours.
Yeah, that's another good one too, and I've used that a lot also too. So in other words, you can't get in. If you can't get in to see your doctor, and you know, it's something real important that you need to take care of. Hopefully you don't have to dial 911, but go on secure messaging, send it to them, tell them, hey, what's going on? I need to see a doctor now. And like he says, within 48 hours, they got to get back to you and tell you. Which is a real good idea too, and I've used that quite a bit myself. Okay. Now we're going to get down to the forms. The first form that you're going to fill out is, well, wait a minute. I'm going to back up. I want to clarify something first. One of the first forms we used to fill out, which we can't fill out anymore, it was called a 2122 POA or Power of Attorney. Okay? Since we're not certified, you cannot sign that Power of Attorney. So we don't even touch it anymore. I don't even use it anymore. Okay? The VA will also come back sometimes, and after you file a compensation claim or whatever, says, hey, you didn't fill out a POA, or you don't have anybody representing you. Legally, you do not have to have anybody representing you, period. You can go on e-benefits, go file your own compensation claim, and it's good to go, provided you know what you're doing. Now, this is where I caution people. On e-benefits, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, if you're not familiar with computers, you're not familiar with VA forms, and you don't know how to fill them out correctly, don't even try it. Because what's happened in the past was guys would go on there and go fill out their claim and everything, which was fine, but the thing comes back later on, the government says, well, you missed this, we don't have this, we need that, whatever, whatever. Now you're going to wait again. So now he turns around and he goes and looks for a service officer, and then tells the service officer what he did and whatever, and now the service officer is going to ask him, well, now we need this, this, and this, and whatever, and go through the same thing again when he could have did it all at the first time. So a lot of that stuff, doing it on your own, like I said, unless you're 100% with computers, you're 100% with VA forms, and you're 100% knowledgeable how to fill out a compensation claim, don't even try it. Just take it to a service officer, somebody that knows what they're doing, that's been doing it for a long time, or whatever, that can do it for you. It's going to save you a lot of headaches. All right, now to the second form. This is called 210966. This is an intent to file. This is the very first thing that you want to file for if the veteran happens to have all the information. Now you're going to see on this page down here in box 13, compensation and pension. When you check this box, 9 times out of 10, you're going to check for compensation. Because if the veteran's already retired and everything, he's already getting his pension. Okay? Another confusing part is what the VA does too with guys that are getting military pension, and then these guys turns around and files for compensation, and say the guy's getting 10 to 40% on compensation and he's getting 100% on pension. What the VA will do is take that 40% from his pension, give it to him on compensation, and now that's 40% less he pays taxes on his pension. But all they're doing is transferring it from the pension to the compensation until he hits 50%. Once he hits 50%, now he gets both. Now the compensation can go from 50% all the way up to 100, and he still gets both. He's only going to pay taxes on the pension, but he's not paying no taxes on compensation. Compensation is non-taxable, period. So you can get $133 a month, or you can get $3,200 a month, and you're not going to pay no taxes on it, period. One other thing I like to bring up, which surprises the females, is that, say for instance, you happen to be a vet and he's getting $3,200 a month compensation, and you guys have been married for who knows how long or whatever, and all of a sudden you guys decide to get a divorce. Okay? You're not going to get one penny of that compensation. That is law. The compensation is for the vet for what he earned while he was in the service. So, if you're not a vet yourself, and you guys happen to get a divorce, and he's getting $3,200 a month, you're not getting one penny of it. That's his. That's the government rules, regs on that. And sorry if it's good news or bad news, but you're not touching a penny of that one. Okay. The intent to file is the one I'm showing you here right now, is that that's the very first thing that you want to send in before you even finish completing the guy's compensation file. Because what happens is when you send this in, this is where the money starts to count. This is the money timer right here. Okay? So with this form, you got 1 complete year to add anything to his file. So in other words, we filed June 1st on your claim. Okay? So now this paper's there, so June 1st is when the money's going to start ticking if you get awarded anything. Now, you come back to me 6 months later, hey Ken, I forgot this. We can still add to it. Okay? So you got a whole complete year to do your claim if you want to go that way. I wouldn't do it, but I mean, it's up to you. So anyway, now all of a sudden it takes the government a year or 2 years or whatever, and all of a sudden they decide to award him 30%. They're going to award him 30% from the time that you file this very first form. So if it takes them that long, say it takes them a whole year, and they can award him 30%, he's going to get a lump sum check for about $3,600 bucks, and then $333 a month direct deposit into his account every month on the first of the month, automatic. So that's why you want to file the intent form first. Okay? Yeah.
You see, I made it this far, but then I stopped right here. Right? This is where I always got confused with, like filing a claim with the VA, like being enrolled with the VA, and then this is where the money part comes. This is where I always stop. But like the secretaries and stuff, people are there at the VA to help you. They usually never bring this up. Usually this part. So you're saying a person's already enrolled in VA, right? Prior to this.
Okay, now wait a minute. Back up a little bit. When you say enrolled in VA, what are you talking about? In VA medical?
Yeah.
Okay, VA medical and compensation are two separate entities. They have nothing to do with it, one or the other. Okay? So this is compensation now. Okay? That's got nothing to do with VA medical. VA medical is completely different. Okay?
You guys know the difference between compensation and medical and
pension?
You guys know?
They did or where they went. It's going to be in there with other vets that went through the same thing that he did, maybe not at the exact same time, but they all experienced the same thing. So they're going to know what each other did, and he's going to know that he's not talking to just anybody. One of the things I'm going to give you a little story on, and I don't know if I told everybody this before or not, but anyway, to do our claims a year ago or so, we used to send everything to Phoenix. Phoenix was the main place where we sent all the VA forms and stuff. So the new guy came over and he took over and he said, well, they were getting lost in the mail, this and that, whatever. I said, hand carry them up there. So we did. We hand carried stacks. We got to the they refused them. So what are we supposed to do now? He said, well, the new guy, McDonald, he took over. He said, he got a new system now. I said, well, okay, what? So in the meantime, there was a guy there that does the veterans claims, a civilian working for the government. So I asked him, I said, well, you know a lot about vets, huh? He goes, oh yeah. I said, how long have you been doing this? He goes, 10, 15 years. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. I said, what's a P-38? He goes, it's a fighter jet. I said, okay. I said, what's a law rocket? He goes, it goes to the moon. Okay. Here you go now, if you're a vet, or if you know anybody who's a vet, a P-38 is a camo. It ain't no jet.
And the 48's the bigger version.
and a lot rocket is a disposable shoulder rocket.
Anti-tank.
One time and you throw it away. So it ain't going to the moon. So just to give you an idea, you got a lot of civilians working for the government that are doing your claims that don't have a clue, don't give a damn, they're there for that paycheck. So a lot of guys' files are getting tossed to the side because the guy doesn't want to take the time and go through and do his job and do what he's supposed to do to help you get your claim in. So some guys will go in there and they'll get a page, a claim or whatever, and they look at it and 5, 10 pages, oh, I can do that, fine. He gets one of those 30 or 40 pages, now he's got to get on the computer and do research and do his job. He tosses it. So who knows how long it's going to sit there. Same thing with e-benefits. E-benefits is a veteran's page where you're supposed to be able to go in there, get on that page, and see everything that you've sent the government from the time you filed your claim till now, period. But a lot of guys go in there, and there's a lot of stuff that's not in there. The reason it's not in there is because when you send the claim in, they're supposed to scan all this stuff into the system, and they're not doing it. So you can go in there and the guy says, well, hey, I just did this 5 months ago or whatever. It's not there. So that goes to show you, a lot of civilians working for the government, they don't care. I mean, it's just like the stolen dollar and stuff, you know. You got a lot of these civilians going around and getting uniforms out of Army surplus or something like that, putting on all these medals, and then going around getting our discounts at the malls and stuff. And the guy never been in the Cub Scouts. The other thing too is that we found out that because of the sophistication of the printers and the computers, they're dumbing up DD-214s, trying to get our compensation. So now the government stopped and said, hey, no more, everybody's going to prove everything, period. I don't give a damn what you got on your DD-214, you're going to prove it. I had a combat medic come see me, 3 tours in Vietnam. Purple Heart, Silver Star, Bronze Star, recommendations, commendations, letters, everything and anything in this DD-214 looked like an encyclopedia on Vietnam. I sent all his paperwork in, all his medical evidence in, all his recommendations, his medals, his ribbons, everything and anything. He got a letter back that says, prove you're in Vietnam. Now you talk about a slap in the face. So this is what everybody has to deal with because of all the other stuff that's going on. So now the government says because of the stolen dollar, because of all the phony DD-214s and everything else, and now because of more Vietnam vets are starting to file, and more of the guys from Iran and Afghanistan and everybody else filing too, now it's clogging the system. Now the government's going, hey, I don't give a damn about your DD-214. You proved to me you were in Vietnam. And the guy had a captured picture of each seat. Tell you another little story. When the government got a hold of Monsanto and Dow Chemical to make Agent Orange, they said, we don't want to spray this in Vietnam. The companies wrote back to the government and says, you know what, you spray this, you're going to kill your veterans. The government wrote back to them and said, so what, could be dead by then. So the government's not here to help you. The government, and I tell this to all the vets, I said, when you got out, what happened? And your DD-214, so get the hell out of here. I said, did they ever come knock on your door and say, hey, look, you're entitled to this, this, and this, and we're going to give you this, this, and this? Hell no. It took me 48 years before I knew I could even get in the system. And it was by accident. I was living in California. My father-in-law was at the VA Tucson Hospital. We went to go visit him. Happened to run into a service officer. He asked me if I was a vet. I said, yeah. He said, you got honorable discharge? I said, yeah. He said, go get your ID card. I said, I didn't retire. I didn't think I was entitled. He goes, no, you don't have to retire. I said, you're kidding me. He goes, no. I walked over there 5 minutes later. I walked out with a card. I was in the VA medical. But the government don't tell you that. There's still guys out here to this day that can get in the VA medical system, but they don't know they can get it. Or they still think like I do. You have to be retired. Or they're not entitled to anything. Or some guys got this attitude, give it to these other guys because they're coming back worse than I did. But what they don't realize is that there's money for each conflict. From World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Okinawa, all the way down. That conflict has got their own money. So nobody is taken away from nobody else. That money is there for you. You earned it, you need to go get it. Okay? So a lot of guys, like I said, they have this attitude. Give it to these other guys, they come back worse than I did. Okay? You got to explain that to them. Same thing with filing a compensation claim. A lot of people say, well, you're entitled, or we're giving it. No, you're not entitled and you're not giving it, you earned it. Uncle Sam sent you where he sent you. You said yes when you swore in, and you went where he said to go, and you did what he said to do. And you served your time, you got out, you earned it. Okay?
I have a question.
Sure.
When you guys get to these, have you guys done these?
Mm-hmm.
Say you get the whole packet ready. You get the whole packet ready with, support the plan. Is it a good conscience to share this with the veteran? like say you go over there and like you follow him through the process, you give this to his family and say like, can you write how he was before, stuff like that, and then at the end of that packet, you guys do it in good conscience to show that veteran the packet and these statements.
Yeah, you're going to have to show him the packet.
And I mean, when the time comes, does he? I mean, does he?
You mean, does he get to read what his family wrote?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, would he ever get mad and just like, that's not how I was, or something like that? You know what I mean?
Most of them are like, they didn't even realize.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of them that they were like, I didn't even realize it. You know, and it's an eye-opener.
Right.
Yeah. No, you have to show the veteran everything in that packet. Okay? He has to see it. That's his compensation claim. He has to see everything from beginning to end, period. Okay? You cannot take a statement from a girlfriend, a wife, an ex, family member down the road or whatever, and write up that statement and sneak it in his packet. He's got to know that. He's got to see it. Okay? That's one of the things you don't do. You do not hide or lie or anything. Just be the veteran, the family, or independence when you're doing this stuff. Okay? You be truthfully honest with them up front, tell them exactly what you're going to do, exactly what you need from them, and just help them from beginning to end, and you're good to go. Okay? And if you don't know the answer, tell them like I did. Hey, I don't know the answer right now, but I'll go research it. I know somebody that does, and I'll get back to you. Don't try to make up an answer if you don't know it. Okay? That's one of the worst things that you can do. Yeah. You guys want to take a 10-minute break or something? Yeah, you can take 10.